stay awake for too long, don't go to bed. I'll make a cup of coffee for your head. I'll get you up and going out of bed.
Hello and welcome to Psychology with Mr. Rahman. Today we will be learning about the infamous fight or flight response. You must bear in mind throughout today's lesson the question of what happens to our body when we are in a stressful situation. There are some keywords that we will be using throughout today's lesson, so please make a note of these and try to get an understanding of what they mean. Stress is experienced when a person's perception of their environment exceeds their ability to cope. Acute stress or short-term stress can take place immediately or in a life or death situation. So, for example, if a person's sitting or preparing for an interview, or if they're being chased by an animal. Does have some aspects which are negative, like sweating and an increased heart rate. However, the effects can also be positive. Being in that stressful situation can allow you to think on your feet or give you a short-term buzz. Next, we have chronic stress or long-term stress. It's a system which evolved within the human body to cope with periodic and stressful situations. For example, a person paying their bills, being in a meeting, or preparing for an exam. These kinds of stress won't kill you, they do prepare your body for a fight and flight situation. Okay, so the process of fight or flight, you must first recognize the threat. The amygdala inside of the brain, it finds and it is triggered by perception of the environment, a sound, a vision, a smell, and that activates a signal that a threat is imminent, and your body enters a stress response. The amygdala then sends a signal to the hypothalamus to activate the sympathetic nervous system. This triggers a change from your body being in a resting state to an aroused state, or more specifically, from a parasympathetic state to a sympathetic state. Whilst in this sympathetic state, the hypothalamus then sends a signal to the adrenal medulla to produce adrenaline. And this adrenaline is released into the bloodstream. Adrenaline has massive impacts on the whole body. Specific ones are an increase in heart rate, blood pressure, and it contracts the muscles. It increases blood flow to the brain, which increases your thinking capacity and increases your thinking speed. Adrenaline also decreases blood flow to systems which aren't needed, such as the skin, digestive, and immune systems. Adrenaline dilates the pupils for improved vision. It leads a person to breathe faster, which increases the consumption of oxygen for muscles to contract and use, which also lead to an increase in attention and alertness. During this state of high arousal, this is when a person might either stay and fight or flight from that situation. Once the threat has passed, your body returns to homeostasis and it goes back to a resting state via the parasympathetic nervous system. For chronic stress, the activated hypothalamus triggers the endocrine system. The hypothalamus produces a hormone called corticotropin releasing hormone, or CRF, which travels through the bloodstream to the pituitary gland. CRF signals to the pituitary gland to release another hormone called adrenocorticotropin hormone, or ACTH, which then travels down the bloodstream to the kidneys. When the ACTH arrives at the kidneys, or more specifically, when it arrives at the adrenal cortex, it activates and produces another hormone called cortisol. Cortisol has many functions within the body, but one of the main ones in this fight or flight response is for it to mobilize energy like glucose. So now the body has enough energy to cope with the prolonged stress that it is experiencing. When levels of cortisol get too high, this is sensed by the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus works to shut off production of CRF and ACTH in order to lower the levels of cortisol found within the body.